What's the story behind your business? How did it get started? How did it begin?
My background is in the IT industry. I've started my computer business about over 20 years ago in Dubai. And that business grew over the years to become one of the largest distribution industry players. But in that process, of course, diversification was the name of the game in terms of investment. So I started some real estate investment internationally back in the year 2000. Those investments did very well all the way to 2003 and 2004. And that effectively gave me the passion of entering the real estate industry. And that was the beginning.
So that was kind of where the business came from. Where do you see it going forward? I know it's hard to plan for these sort of things because no one knows the future. Where do you think the company's going to be over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years?
I see Omniyat over the next 5 years continue producing premium properties in all the segments of the market that we are in today. So we are today very strong player in the commercial segment of the market with 4 office buildings. We are a strong player in the residential. And we are also a very strong player in the hospitality segment. So over the next decade, I would say Omniyat can clearly export this approach to other cities and other capital cities around the world.
Thank you very much. So the next question, what would you say the single biggest challenge for the industry is? Do you think that maybe the property industry out here maybe has eyes bigger than their belly? They maybe want to do too much too quick?
One thing is important about real estate to understand and accept that real estate is a long-term business. And you need to take a long-term view when you invest in the long-term business. And when you want to take a long-term view on any business, you need to focus on fundamentals. Because fundamentals are the one that drives the future results, right? So I've always said in our industry, we need to really not follow sentiment, but follow fundamentals, and that's very important. I said that in 2005 and 6. I said that in 2009 and 10, which was the most challenging years that I have been in business over the last 20 years, and I say that today as well. That Dubai business model is a very unique business model, and has a competitive advantage, and the leadership in this country is so capable of continue producing that competitive advantage. And today, Dubai leads by example. The leadership in this country leads by example in terms of how they constantly evolve and constantly innovate. And that shows the maturity. Shows the maturity of the industry, shows the regulation environment, and shows well-capitalized industry.
So what is the most important or the biggest decision that you've ever had to make for the company? Maybe when it began, or maybe recently?
The largest decision actually I made is when I went into rather than buy one piece of land, I bought 3 pieces extra, and that became the portfolio that I started with. I remember my CFO was shocked when he came back from his Christmas vacation with the type of commitment I've created. But I think that was a fundamental to set the tone.
What sort of culture does your organization have? Because the culture is kind of almost as important as the mission. How do you get that across to a new hire?
I'm an entrepreneur by nature. That's the only way I know how to run a business. Now, every time I build a business, I believe you need to have a very clear direction and very clear vision. And I try to communicate that vision very clearly with people that I invite in to the organization. So sharing the vision is fundamental to me. And understanding the vision and being very clear with the vision and the direction of the company is very important. Of course, explaining the culture and explaining the entrepreneurship culture that you expect from your employees is fundamental. Not a lot of people can adapt to it. Some people find it extremely flourishing environment because they can express themselves, and some people find it challenging. So selecting those people that are made for such an atmosphere is very important. And I think I can say that I had more success than failures in that exercise.
Let's say hypothetically you have 2 equally qualified job candidates. Their resumes are exactly the same, but you can only choose one of them. How would you choose? What characteristics would they have to have in order for you to pick one over the other one?
Personality is very important. If the background and the resume and the qualification is similar, then it really brings it down to the personality. The can-do attitude, the hunger for success attitude, the entrepreneurship and innovative attitude is fundamental for me. Excellent, thank you.
Thank you very much. So what's one mistake that you think leaders make more frequently than others, internationally or out here in the region?
Taking things for granted is one of the largest challenges of leadership. You can have, as a startup, you always look for creating competitive advantage. You always look for creating a beautiful atmosphere with your team to create the right energy to start. And then down the road, you take those competitive advantage for granted. And things evolve, things changes, especially in the industry or in the global phenomena of change and constant technology change and constant structural change that we see around us today. Innovation is key, and I think not taking things for granted is fundamental.
How do you guard against getting, not lazy, but I guess getting set in your ways and I guess taking for granted your success and constantly innovate?
As I said, don't take things for granted. Because if you have that attitude every day you wake up with that attitude that anything I own is not taken for granted. And that can be taken away from me. If I don't innovate, if I don't change. Create the need, because need is mother of invention.
Yeah. So kind of that kind of constant need to innovate, obviously that comes from, it can't just come from you, that must come from the entire team. How do you go about, well, one, kind of where do these good ideas come from within the organization? And two, how do you go about ensuring that everyone in your company feels like they can come to you with an idea and not be shut down?
Again, entrepreneurship atmosphere is important. And we, as Omniyat, we constantly allow that competition of ideas. We compete to bring ideas rather than block and accept ideas. We celebrate success. And I think that's very important. You'll be surprised. Some of your newest people come up with the most interesting ideas because they look at it fresh. And you need to encourage the old and the new and the high and the low to all come back with those ideas and encourage them and flourish them and discuss them.
That's fine, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
So if you could just now, could you describe kind of a regular day? So from getting up, maybe to getting to work, if you do anything regularly, and then what does a regular day at the office look like?
Since my kids started going to school, I've committed to waking up early and taking them to school, and that has been one of my fundamental commitments. Now from there, my day can evolve into early meetings from 8 o'clock, or going to a sport or a personal activity in the morning between 8 to 10. And regardless, 10 o'clock is where I am in the office. And I wrap up predominantly around 7 in the evening.
Raspberries for you.
Great, thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Perfect. So kind of my last question, my favorite question. What did you want to be growing up?
Very interesting. No, I think first question answer is I never knew that actually I would be in property. And I never thought about that. Businessman, of course, I come from a family of businessmen, and as I said earlier, I'm a third generation business member of the family. So that was always part of the DNA of the business. But personally, I always wanted to get involved in aviation and in flying. Interestingly, last year's birthday of mine, my colleagues and my team members gifted me actually a flight learning classes lessons, which hopefully will satisfy that desire as well.
So that's all the questions I have. Thank you for your time, and thank you for joining me for lunch.
Thank you very much for having me here, and I hope it's been a useful content for you.
Absolutely, thank you very much.
Thank you.